Hey Slingers, thanks for tuning in for another week of the Wordslinger Podcast. And today we're going to talk with a fellow author and podcaster, Bryan Cohen. He's the author of the Viral Superhero series, among other things. And he does a whole bunch of stuff for the indie author community. We're going to talk about some of that. So without delaying any further, let's jump right in and be sure to stick around after the interview. I've got some industry news. I've got some cool stuff to talk about and my opinions on some of that cool stuff too. So it's an acerbic sort of Wordslinger podcast today. So thank you for tuning in. Enjoy this interview with Bryan Cohen, and I'll see you on the other side.
It's the Wordslinger Podcast, where story matters. Build your brand, write your book, redefine who you are. It's all about the story here. What's yours? Now, here's the guy who invented pants optional, Kevin Tomlinson, the Wordslinger.
Wordslinger.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. You stuck around through the whole music bridge and everything, so thank you for that. Now today I'm talking with a guy. He's actually been on the show once before. If you remember way back in episode 55, we talked with Bryan Cohen. He's the author of the Viral Superhero series. He's also a two-time USA Today best-selling author. Love getting guys like you on the show, Bryan. So welcome, man. Thanks for coming back.
Yeah, of course, Kevin. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, this is the second time you've been on the show. I haven't been on your show even once yet. I'm just putting that
We
out.
don't have too many interviews. You have to be like real fancy to get on the Sell More Books show, but we'll try to pencil you in for something in the future.
There you go. Guest host. That's the only two words I'm going to say for the on the whole.
Okay. Right. It's put to memory.
So now, last time we talked, we mostly were talking about your the copywriting and book descriptions and that sort of thing. So, and I hear that's going pretty well for you. How's that business going?
Oh, it's fantastic. I'm fortunate enough to have a great cohort with me, Abigail Denard of the Seventh Titan Press. She went from intern of the Sell More Books show to basically, hey, you're great. Can you help me with everything? And so she's helped me with that, and it's allowed us to scale up to, we recently passed 800 book descriptions written for other authors. So
very, very nice. Anybody?
That's been fun.
Can you reveal? Anybody?
What was that?
Anyone we know?
Oh yeah, I mean your best friend Mark Dawson. We've got we've worked with a bunch of people over the past. Steve Scott. We've worked with so many, Kirsten Oliphant. I'm just trying to think of names that come to mind. But yeah, I mean,
our crowd, our folks, our people,
the people we relate to. Yeah, no, but so many people. It's been amazing to work with authors in all sorts of different genres, and to have just that little part of being able to help the process is so cool. Getting that like little look into their story and getting a feel for what they're doing. It's a really cool thing to be a part of.
Yeah. I still do quite a few book descriptions these days, and it's kind of a referral only business for me now. And I like it that way because you get the I don't have to deal with the people who want to negotiate price and that sort of thing. Let's
there's been some funny customers over the years. That is for sure. You learn a lot about psychology when you do a service business.
Right, exactly right. Yeah, I keep kind of pushing that very idea. So you're okay. So you got that going. Clearly, you're still writing. That's good to hear.
I like writing.
I don't remember how many books you had out at the time that we spoke last time. What are you up to now? You got over 40 books.
Yeah, over 40 books. A lot of those are cheats. They're workbooks that were based off of some of my earlier nonfiction writing prompts books. So if you take a lot of those out, if you wanted to, I'm now up to 8 novels and a few novellas, and then the several full length nonfiction books, and then the workbooks. So it's on Author Central. I think it's something like 50 products, but who knows? Who knows what they say?
I'm in the same boat, man. I got 40 plus books, and some of them are novellas, some of them are serialized, so we all just a little,
a tiny bit.
Probably count up my actual number of full length novels. It's pretty high now, but when I hit the 40 mark, it was really, there is a chunk in there that's like novellas.
Yeah. Well, I won't discount you some of your books as books if you don't discount any of my books as books.
I'm with you.
Okay.
All right.
So we're great.
We have a pact.
Good.
We have an accord.
Pinky swear.
So which of your books got you the two New York USA Today bestsellers?
So these were 2 box sets that I was a part of. So these were multi-author box sets, and one of them sold about 7,000 or 8,000 copies in the U.S. And has more since that, but and ended up in the 140 range or 137-ish, and then the other one was it was number 31 on the USA Today list. Over 14,000 copies sold.
Wow.
And the USA Today list is like, I didn't really understand the whole scope of it. It's essentially the best-selling books of that week in the United States, of like all books, ebooks, hardcovers, everything all combined. And to be at number 31 in any particular week for a whole week is just cool. It's kind of a fun little feather in the cap.
Right. Yeah, it's huge, actually. Getting to 31, cracking the top 100, from what I'm told, is pretty difficult. Good. Well, congratulations, man. You did it not once, but twice. That's an accomplishment. It's officially
Thank you.
You do it more than once. That's
why I wanted to do it.
First time could have been a fluke. Second time you did it. So,
exactly. And me and the, other 18 to 20 authors in the set. So not discounting them either.
They're riding your coattails, man.
I didn't say that, for what it's worth. It's off the record. Yeah.
No, if they're going to stab anyone, they'll stab me, and they will. So, all right, man, you recently did this, and you were talking about this on Facebook, which is why I initially reached back out to you, because this is something I'm interested in. I've talked to several authors who are doing what you did, but you relaunched your viral superhero series.
Yes.
Why don't you? So first, where did it start? What was it like before the relaunch?
Sure. Well, it was originally called the Ted Saves the World series, which, of course, I didn't think that World Series was in the title when I did that. So don't end a series with World, or else you're going to have World Series in there. You'll get a bunch of baseball fans, maybe not readers. I don't know if that actually happened, but so. Ted Saves the World was the name of the first novel I wrote, and I kept the series consistent with that name. I'd written 4 at the time, where I was kind of starting to feel like the shine had kind of come off the series. It wasn't really making the sales that I was hoping it would make. I launched it originally in first book in mid-2014 and was kind of publishing every 3 months, so not too bad. I did end up between 4 and 5 having a longer break, but still, I thought that it could be doing better than it was.
Right.
And let's face it, you learn some things over the years. You learn, okay, maybe this wasn't the right kind of cover for this genre, which was the case. Mine was kind of darker, more urban fantasy in a way, but not with the right typeface for urban fantasy. I had... in the first book, there was a bit of Rashomon going on with some time jumping back and forth, which kind of took away the linear narrative there. There were a few problems. And also that first novel I ever finished. So one could say probably my worst novel starting off that series. And so while I sold a few thousand copies and I was happy with having worked on it, having done it, I knew that it could have been better. It could be better. And with an additional, at least on the first book, 2.5 years of hindsight.
Right.
I changed things. I changed things up. I relaunched the series, and while it was a challenge, I think that it's been worth it so far.
So this was the series that when we talked last time, it was kind of inspired by like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and
exactly,
things
yes,
like that, right? So did you kind of skew it away from that genre? I that's not even a genre, but I mean,
yeah, kind of that quirky hero one-liners fighting bad guys and goofily chatting at the same time, but also occasional terribly tragic things happening. That's the genre, if anything, of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Okay, I don't know what the bisect code of that's going to be, but
oh yeah, I don't know. Let's not call bisect on this. But
right.
I did not really go too far away from that, but I did fully rewrite the entire first book from cover to cover.
Wow.
And that was painful. Taking the first novel I ever wrote and reading it first and foremost, that was painful in itself.
Right.
But then actually having to change it from the beginning. Plot stayed more or less the same. It was just I'd grown as an author from at that point, having written 6 novels. I knew more. I'd learned more. I applied that knowledge to changing the book from the beginning. And
that's, I mean, the whole idea of this scares me right now. Okay, but I am thinking of doing this with some of my books, so it's relevant. But So I mean, I know me. I'd hold on to that other copy somewhere. You're like, this is the original, so I'm going to preserve it. Do you still have the original version of the book sitting there somewhere?
Well, you can actually still buy random paperbacks that have still floated around on Amazon. I did take it down on CreateSpace. I actually paid my original narrator $1,000 or something that we agreed on. It was around that, because you have to actually have a deal with your royalty split person.
Right.
To dissolve the contract. Both of you have to agree, and to agree, I had to give him money. And he did a great job. It's just it was going to be a whole new book, and so there was really no point in having it still up. And took it down ebook version. So of course there's that $400 paperback floating around that when you take down a book that someone has a limited edition copy somewhere. But I do have it in paperback form, and I definitely have the ebook file somewhere, I'm sure, on my computer.
Yeah. It's good. It's good to kind of have, to be able to look back and see how far you've come. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. No, these are things that are important to know, because we have a tendency as creative people, I think all people have this tendency, but creative people especially, you beat yourself up based on where you are in the now versus where you want to be in the future, instead of praising yourself for being where you are now versus where you were 2 years ago, 3 years ago, earlier. We need to be nicer to ourselves in that respect. And I don't think we're not quite there yet.
Yeah, no, you're right. We're pretty authors as a group. We're pretty hard on ourselves, I think.
Oh yeah.
So you, all right, you got this. So, and I assume you redid your covers.
Yep. Covers, brand new, titles, brand new, and different products. So different ASIN numbers completely.
Wow. You did start fresh.
Totally fresh. All the reviews gone, everything.
Oh, wow. That's the part that would be scary for me, really. I mean, you work so hard to get those reviews.
Yeah, but as well as I do that Amazon really favors those new titles.
That's true.
There's that 30, 60, 90-day cliff. Who knows what it is now.
Whatever it is this week, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's 37-day cliff right now.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to have that 37-day summit first.
Yeah.
And so I knew that, especially because I had 5 books ready, so I knew that I could release them in short order and get that 37-day cliff on all of them.
Yeah. Yeah. This is what I'm interested in, by the way, is this
Mm-hmm.
sort of retooling and then using it, building some momentum with it and using the wave of it to basically do what I have always wished I had done from the beginning,
This is your opportunity for that, rubbing the genie lamp,
Right.
going through whatever Tom Hanks did in Big, except in reverse, whatever Xandor, I forget what that thing was called, but it's really like one of the few opportunities you do kind of have to go back in time with the knowledge that you had,
Right.
and revamp the series as a whole.
Yeah, no, that's so recently I pulled my so I started writing thrillers about a year ago. I switched from sci-fi to thrillers. I pulled all of them from wide distribution and went to KU with them as I build a new platform, right? Because I didn't really have that platform. So it was an opportunity for me to start where I tell authors to do things like this all the time, but I mean, it was an opportunity for me to start from the beginning and knowing everything I know now. So there's been some huge advantages to that, because the last time I was here, it was, a struggle trying to figure everything out, and I was overwhelmed all the time. So it's been kind of.
The other thing is, I mean, this is just coming to mind right now. I mean, I don't know about you, but 2014 compared to 2017,
Right.
I'm also more stable financially. I can spend a little bit more money on covers. Yes. Right. I could spend a little bit more money on the audiobook, so I don't have to do royalty share, those sorts of things. I can even, and this is kind of a Chris Fox tip that I'm pulling, call it a Fox tip.
I need to do a graphic now.
Fox tip with a big fox on it. He did something that I thought was really interesting, doing the box set of the audio, doing that. And I've heard of other folks doing this since, but I'm going to have, it's not all out yet, but I'm going to have a box set audio over 20 hours that's books 1 through 3.
Excellent.
And because it's over 20 hours, it'll be very appealing on Audible. And I'm hoping that is a real earner for me. Yeah. But that's not something I could have afforded, not something I could have set up properly 3 years ago when I didn't have the funds for that. So that's another consideration.
Right. No, yeah, that's, you're kind of attacking it with more resources. It's a really interesting phenomenon, actually. So I'm watching you. I'm watching you and a couple other guys that I'm seeing do this. And of course, Chris Fox has his book, and I forget the title now. It's about relaunch. But
Relaunch Your Novel, I believe.
Relaunch Your Novel. I think that's it. Sorry, Chris.
Yeah. Fox tip.
Fox tip. Yeah, we'll find a link. We'll put it in the show.
Yeah, we'll find something.
So you're okay. You've redone covers. You've redone titles. I assume that you redid book descriptions. You may have had some
I did redo book descriptions. Yes.
Where was that a dramatic change? I mean, from the original?
Not significantly. I'm fortunate in that I think I had a decent handle on it already. I think because in the original first book, I made it pretty evident that one character was a good guy from the beginning.
Right.
But in this new version, I kind of took the tip. I don't know if you ever listened to my old podcast with Robert Scanlon, The Split, where we actually took over 50 young adult novels, mostly young adult novels, and read them and reviewed them from a reader and an author perspective.
Right.
And so essentially reading 50 books and parsing them out to figure out what was strong and what wasn't. One thing I learned deep down was you need mystery.
Yeah.
And my first book originally didn't have any mystery. So I made that other character's intentions less overt from the beginning.
Right.
And as a result, I couldn't really have that character listed as another POV in the description because, well, then people are going to know she's a good guy. So I had to scale that back, make it more focused on the protagonist, Ted. And so that was the major change, I would say. And that's, I think a lot of my clients, I know yours probably too, there's that fine line of what to reveal in the description and what not. Right. And so that was something I decided not to reveal. so that it would preserve the mystery in the book.
Yeah. That's cool. And you and I have very similar methods. I've read your book. I've stolen from you.
Hey, that's fine. Look, if I didn't want if I wanted it to be the KFC secret spices,
exactly,
I wouldn't have put it in a book.
That's what I tell people about 30 Day Author. It's not state secrets here. I'm actually trying to help people with this thing. So,
I feel the same way.
Now, you've done this now with this series. Are you looking at any of your other books through this lens?
Well, as far as fiction is concerned, I don't have too much else. I have one novel under a pen name and a kind of a series idea behind that, but I don't necessarily feel any need to relaunch that currently. If I put out new books and those do well, maybe I would consider it. But this was kind of my main fiction series. So this was taking all my fiction and running it through the ringer of this. So I don't have any on that front. I would consider doing it with my nonfiction, but that would really be a whole different can of worms there. I certainly could try it, and I hadn't even really considered it. So that's an interesting idea for that. But I think that there's a few criteria to probably consider as an author. How is that genre doing now here in 2017? Will it be doing well in 3 to 6 months when you get your act together to have everything ready?
Right.
Is it a fad? Is it something that might not be around? Or is it something that is a pretty good seller generally? The superhero thing, it's interesting. The superhero genre, that there are better genres to write in for money, more than likely. I'm fortunate. I mean, I was just looking at my stats, so I would be up to date. I'm right on the cusp of about $14,000 in sales and pages read for the series, and I'm happy with that. Yeah. If I'd written it in lit RPG, would it be 28,000? Maybe. I don't really know, but I think that that's something to consider, and then to consider how passionate about this series are you. Is one of my main things behind this series is I wanted people to read it because I thought it was good. I thought it was a story that people would enjoy. And my diehard readers, the few and far between that kind of kept me going in the 2 years since I'd written in it, they really were, hey, when's that next TED book coming out? And so I wanted to fulfill it for those fans. I have a cousin who likes the series. My mom reads it. These are all people I wanted to put the series out for.
Have you heard from fans of the original versions of the books? I mean, are they?
Oh yeah, most of them liked the revisions. I had one person I saw. You always think of the one person. Yeah. One person who liked the original version better, but I know this version's significantly better. So for what it's worth.
I kind of wonder if you could do that, and still, I know there are rules against duplicating content, but because you rewrote it, I wonder if you could actually offer, the both versions of that book.
I don't know. That's a good question. I think because it was rewritten from cover to cover, I probably wouldn't have any problem with it. But you're going to get a few reviews. I've got. Despite mentioning in the description that this was previously published as a different book, with heavy revisions from beginning to end, I've gotten a few reviews, just people saying, I don't know why someone says this is a new book. This was an old book with a new cover. Like, like you're really offended by this? Well, if you liked the first book so much, why didn't you buy it? Because I didn't sell that many copies of it. If you really loved that first book and you wanted to preserve the integrity of that first book, you should have told 200 people to go buy it. But hey, I'm happy with how it's changed.
Yeah. Those guys, they'll fade.
Yep.
They'll be out soon enough. So, all right. So this is all, I mean, it's all very interesting because it seems like there would be a lot to go into this. It sounds like the majority of the work, though, was in the rewrites. Is that?
I would say so. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I didn't create the covers. The covers were created by insert disclaimer here that you should always check to see which the best-selling authors in your genre are using before you take Bryan's advice, because They're going to do the best covers for your genre. And disclaimer, Damon's did that. Damon did those covers.
Yeah.
So I didn't do those.
Yeah.
And marketing was on me, but the rewriting was, I would say, the most time consuming part for sure.
Yeah. That's and it's funny because when I first started this, that's the part that I would have dreaded the most. But I actually recently ported everything over so that I could start going back and editing and reviewing things from my Scrivener iOS app.
Nice.
And I thought, for a long time that was going to be very daunting, but actually it's kind of a relief to go back and fix things that I know were wrong. There were, that first Dan Collar book, for example, there are problems with that book that people have called out, even though it won awards and became a bestseller. And, there's these little niggling little things that I want to fix, and I've always dreaded it.
Yeah.
But I'm actually enjoying that process. So.
And that's good. And that would be the same thing for me in general, just having to go through this again. But hey, if you can, it's not necessarily about not doing things you don't like. It's about finding the method that works for you to do the things you don't like.
Right.
For me, back when I was freelancing all the time, it was listening to movie soundtracks and
Right.
getting myself in a nice place and maybe trying to work out beforehand, getting conditions right so that you could perform at optimal speed and proficiency.
Right. Yeah. Have your methods changed quite a bit?
That's a good question. I mean, for one of the things I hadn't had a chance to mention today was that I was inspired to finish the series, which hadn't been finished previously.
Right.
I had previously written books 1 through 5, and then said, "Hell, I'm going for it." Put books 6 and 7 up for pre-order. Craziest month of my life, but I dictated those, which I hadn't really done for books 1 through 4, so that was different. I had dictated some of book 5, and so that was something that was different in my process. Walked around during the Chicago summer talking to myself by Lake Michigan. So that was fun. And so that was different. And my revision process has changed just because I'm writing cleaner first draft copy than I did back in the day. And so I mostly just had I mostly just had my editor take a quick peek at it, give it to a couple other people, and then said, "Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
It's done. I'm done with it. Get out of my sight, book."
Right. Yeah, I'm sorry. I had a little pop-up for some reason.
Your meeting with me wanted to end, but you instead chose to give it unlimited minutes. So we're going to be here for a while.
Unlimited minutes. I'm not even sure how we got to 40 minutes when I only have 27 showing on my timer. I think I started it late.
I have no idea.
But that brings us to the point, which is I generally try to wrap up right around now. So I'm going to be watching very closely to see, how this goes for you, what you're doing. I assume sales have been much better.
Oh yeah, this is more than double what I made from the original run, maybe even closer to more than triple. If I really looked it up in depth, I could probably figure it out. But yeah, sales have been much better. And now that I know new marketing methods like putting things into box sets, like the box set audio, like audio in general, which I'm going to have for all 7 books, the output of expenses was higher at first, but the ceiling of potential earnings is also a lot higher.
Excellent. All right. Well, that's good. I'm gonna be watching. So is everyone else now. So do it right, Bryan. All right. So where can people find these books that you've made all fancy?
Well, currently they are in KU, so they're just on Amazon. Search for the Viral Superhero Series, and you will find them. It's written by me and a pen name, which is also me. There was a philosophy behind that, but hey, I mean, it kind of fell by the wayside in the midst of everything.
Yeah,
but
I was going to ask about that because someone recommended the strategy of creating a pen name that is the same name. And I was going to ask you why you did it. And I guess if you don't mind taking a few minutes.
Oh, I don't mind at all.
That could be the after show stuff, but no, we're going to do it. Let's just do
it. Let's do it. Let's do it. We have unlimited minutes.
We have unlimited minutes.
Unlimited minutes. So, Casey Lane was my pen name that was going to be focused on kind of a fairy tale series. And I put out the first book, which I actually think is probably one of the best books I've written. I was really happy with it, Cinderella Dreams of Fire. And I was intending to do a series of fairy tales. And I kind of got a little caught up, got a little busy, got a little overwhelmed, and then put a hold on that. But ended up with it's kind of funny. I had a novella that I was giving away as a freebie, and I used Insta Freebie to get a lot of followers from there, probably in the 13,000 range about now. And people freaking love the novella, which I think I wrote in a week because I had to, and just sped through it. And just because I wanted to follow the advice that I give everybody, which is to have a lead magnet, have it up, have it available. And so that someone who is buying your first book, as that pen name's first book, they're clicking through and they have something they can download and read. But I think people liked the novella even more than the novel, and they're clamoring to get it on, like, where is it on Amazon? I want to review it.
Right.
And so if there's ever time, I may expand that novella, which is called Snow White's Revenge and has a very Kristen Ritter looking character on the front.
Okay.
I gave the designer a picture of Kristen Ritter, and he basically copied her, but I think made it different enough. But who knows? If I get a call from Kristen Ritter's agent, I'll take it down.
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe they'll someone will see that and think, I should make this movie and cast Kristen Ritter.
I know.
All right. Okay. Well, let's go.
Well, actually, to tie that up, which is, why did you do this? Why did you put that name on there too? At the time I was getting the relaunch ready, I thought, well, there's a chance this pen name could take off. If it does, I'll have the cachet of both pen names.
Yeah.
The pen name and my name. Casey Lane didn't really take off in a huge way, but I already had the cover, so there we go.
So I kind of like this, though, as an idea because I still occasionally like to write in a different genre. I could make myself a co-author on these genres. So
and use your pull to get people involved.
Okay, yeah. All right, I'm on board. All right. Look for that pen name soon, folks. And beyond that, we're going to go ahead and wrap everything up. They can find you in a couple different places online. Where are some of the best places to find you online?
You're a podcast host. Why don't I just say, come on over to my podcast, the Sell More Book Show, at sellmorebookshow.com, because you can fit in lots of podcasts in a week.
You can.
And I co-host that show with Jim Kukral, and we talk about the news in the self-publishing industry. We've been told multiple times that people like to go to that show instead of doing the work themselves. And so we save people time, and people like getting time saved.
That's right. And I highly recommend the show. I'm a listener myself. So
well, thank you for listening.
All right, man. Okay, everybody, you are probably hearing the groovy bridge music right about now. You may dance in place at will. And we'll see you on the other side with some housekeeping and other stuff. And otherwise, Brian and I, we're going to go have a little private chat of our own. So see you after this, and otherwise I'll see you next time. Hey, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Brian. I know I did. I get a lot out of talking to Brian every time we come around. So I hope you got something useful out of that. Now, let's move on to some industry news. There's some cool stuff happening in the world of indie publishing right now, and I think you're gonna get a kick out of some of this. First up, no love between Audible and romance authors. This comes because Audible recently released now Audible, which is of course owned by Amazon, released a very similar it's a similar service to Kindle Unlimited. It's a subscription service for romance readers. Now, This has been compared to KU, and sometimes compared a little bit favorably. Everyone kind of looked forward to this idea because it was a way to sort of separate the romance authors and let them still make an income without sort of dominating the charts on Audible all the time. Unfortunately, what's happened is this has not turned out well for romance authors, at least not yet. This first iteration has not proven to be very profitable or very fun for the romance authors. First up, one of the problems is that this thing pays only pennies per listen, which means that readers come in, they pay their subscription price, and they get to download their audiobooks and listen to as much as they want, and the author gets paid. If they get paid maybe a penny or two per listen. That's not a lot of money, especially considering the amount of work and time and investment that goes into producing an audiobook. So authors are already a little unhappy about that. It's also kind of problematic that this thing only pays out once you reach a $50 threshold. That's a fail. Think about it. If you're only getting paid a penny per listen, and you only get paid once you reach $50, that means that thousands and thousands of people are listening to your audiobook and paying nothing to you at all. And later, maybe you get paid $50 for it. That's no good. So, authors are understandably upset about this, and I think rightly so. The question, is Audible ripping off authors? Yes. That's pretty much it. If you don't agree, if you do agree, if you got a philosophy on this subject, answer me in the comments below. Tell me whatever you're thinking. Personally, I just think this is an awful idea. I think it's an awful move on Audible's part and Amazon's part. I think they're taking advantage of authors. So, what can I say? I'm an indie author. I look at it this way. Uppity author thinks authors should be paid for their work. This is, according to author Philip Pullman, very popular author, not uppity in any way, but there's something a bit unbalanced about the fact that the publishing industry's profits and margins are going up, but the amount being paid out to authors in royalties is going down. So, as any author would probably suspect, this isn't something that makes us happy. If you're an indie author, this isn't really impacting you much, but the thing that's interesting about this is that these authors are starting to look around and notice that they're being taken advantage of, and they sort of want some of the same powers and freedoms that you would get as an indie. I'm not going to go preaching that to them. They're going to have to come to that on their own. But the problem here really is that people who are stakeholders and shareholders in the traditional publishing world are on average getting about 3 times the amount of money that an author gets paid for royalties for his or her work. That stinks. I mean, maybe you don't agree. Maybe you agree. Maybe you don't agree. Let me know in the comments below. But my personal take on this is that's just dumb. I would rather invest my time and money in publishing myself, even if I don't have quite the same reach. Now, what I think could help is if the traditional world started to embrace a more hybrid model where the author owns more of their work, the traditional publisher helps and assists with the discoverability, with building the platform. Now we're talking, and I think that we've got something that could actually benefit both parties a great deal. Everyone can come out a winner. Less overhead on the publisher's part. They can cultivate some bestsellers who are willing to. Now, the cost on the author is you're going to have to go out and do a lot of your own marketing, and you're going to have to really work hard. And if you can't hit a certain number of sales, you may lose the benefit of the traditional publisher's resources. I'd be willing to take that gamble. Get me out in front of John Grisham's folks, or James Rowland's readers, or Dan Brown's readers, and take you can take a third of my income at that point, as long as I'm not taking less than everybody else. So let's do this. Let's redefine that industry. I think the hybrid model is the way to go. So you let me know what you think in the comments below. Am I off base? Am I completely wrong? I can accept either of those answers. Just hop in. Barnes & Noble's comeback will be a slow burn. If they come back at all, frankly, because Barnes & Noble, let's just say they keep doing the same stuff over and over again and expecting a different result. Seems like I've heard that definition somewhere. Now, right now, their new CEO has just recently announced that they've got a whole new strategy. It's a long-term strategy. This is all kind of coming on the heels of having a really bad holiday season at the end of 2017, and then a whole bunch of unexpected and really quite tragic layoffs that happened among all the retail outlets and even in the corporate structure. They let go of a lot of folks, and a lot of people were kind of wondering why. They got rid of some veterans in this business who, some of which I read an article about a guy who'd been with the company for 17 years, met his wife there, had just done one of the most popular story times of all time. He gets let go with 2 weeks severance. This doesn't sound right to me. Shouldn't sound right to you. But Barnes & Noble is saying they have a long-term strategy that's going to bring the company back around. And part of that is their prototype stores. That's it. I mean, I think they're going to include like a cafe, but don't they already have cafes? I think they're going to start selling wine. That might make the whole experience a little better. They've talked about restaurants. They've talked about all kinds of crazy things over the years, but who knows what's really going to go into these things. Now, they are shifting their focus back to books, which I do think is a smart move. And they're thinking of letting go music and DVD sales. When was the last time you bought music or DVDs at Barnes & Noble? Maybe you're the one. Maybe you're the one that buys that stuff there. Nobody buys that stuff. So, they're going to take that stuff out, and they're going to start bringing in more stationery and gifts and that sort of thing. This makes no sense to me. This is a terrible strategy. I don't think it's going to work. But then again, I'm not a bigwig in that business. I mean, what can I say? I don't know Barnes & Noble inside and out the way the CEO apparently does, and I don't know their client base inside and out. Well, I don't know. Other than being a reader and other than working with readers every day and understanding customers, the customer point of view when it comes to buying books, I know nothing. So, Barnes & Noble has their long-term strategy in place. Let's see how it plays out. To me, it sounds like more of the same. It's just the same stuff over and over again. If you have a perspective on this that maybe I don't have, please feel free to share it in the comments below. I honestly want to see Barnes & Noble succeed, but maybe it's time to just sell out to Amazon and get the whole thing over with. Amazon's got their whole storefront thing going right now. I think Amazon folks, Jeff, hey man, there could be a bargain in the works here. Why don't you reach out? You could just revamp all the Barnes & Noble stores, improve everybody's experience, and we'd all benefit, we'd all win. And by the way, you should totally have an indie book section. So that's it for the news this week. I hope you got a little something out of that. Of course, always, if you've got opinions, comments, anything you want to say, feel free to hop in, leave me something in the comments below. You can find links to all these stories and more in the show notes of this episode. And if you want to help support the Wordslinger Podcast, you can do that in a couple of ways. Draft to Digital, of course, is a sponsor of the show. You can convert, publish, and distribute your books worldwide with support the whole way. Check it out. Go to my URL for that at drafttodigital.com/Wordslinger. And Wordslinger Press, brand new thing I just introduced last episode. That's where I'm going to start dropping in some stuff aimed specifically at the indie author. You can get this stuff at any, the books that I'll have on this site you can get anywhere. I'm going to probably offer more than just books at some point, but all these books you can get at any retailer online, but you can get them a lot cheaper at wordslingerpodcast.com. Go to wordslingerpodcast.com, and on the right-hand side, you'll see a little graphic. It has a couple of book covers. It says Wordslinger Press. Click on that. Now, I've gotten some reports that the experience may be a little wonky, so look for me to improve that in the future, but it's still there. Go get those books real cheap and start your author journey on the right foot. And reach out. Tell me what you find in that. I hope there's some gems in there, and that's going to grow over time. Support for this show, of course, comes with subscribing and sharing. If you hit the little bell icon up top, that'll tell you whenever I got a new episode coming out. But subscribe to the show, tell your friends about it. I do appreciate that. And we're gonna wrap this whole thing up. I appreciate all that you do. I appreciate all the emails I get. I'm not getting a ton of comments on these YouTube videos yet, but that's okay. I know that'll come. But be sure to tell people about the show. And if you are a listener, I appreciate you reaching out and reviewing the show on iTunes and Stitcher and that sort of thing. So go check that out. Wordslingerpodcast.com, as always, is the home of the Wordslinger Podcast. And you can also find my books there. So be sure to check those out. I'm a thriller writer. I got stuff coming out all the time. So if you happen to be into archaeological thrillers along the lines of like a Dan Brown Da Vinci Code or something like that, I just happen to have some. So thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you're having a great indie author experience, and we'll see you next time.